Welcome back to the shop this week. Hopefully I'm going to be finishing up the rest of this engine. Now I went ahead and put the turbocharger on, and it looks like all of a sudden it got a little tighter for space. When I put this boost elbow on here, this is the one that came off this truck, it doesn't fit anymore. And that's due in part to moving the engine back 4 inches. So what I might need to do is clock the turbocharger, but first I'll have to wait till the oil filter comes in and then see what kind of space I have to work with. I'm also waiting on a bracket to come in, which will move the air conditioning compressor from here and move it up here, and then move the alternator down and reroutes this water inlet pipe somewhere else. It'll probably make more sense when it comes in, but I'm still waiting on it. And also I'll have to wire the rest of the engine up. I have the wiring harness ready to go on, and it's just a matter of putting her on there. And also I want to dig out this cab so I can paint the bottom of it up. Now once the bottom of this cab's painted up and cleaned up, then I'm going to install it back on the truck for good. Or at least until it has to come off for whatever reason again. I was cleaning up my heater hoses here, and I noticed there was a small pinhole, so I was able to weld it back together, and it looks like it holds pretty well. And it was the only blemish that I saw on the whole heater hose. So I think I'll be able to clean this up and it'll work. However, I did the same thing for the turbo drain line, and I found a couple of pinhole leaks and then tried to weld them up, and it quickly got out of hand. So I think what I'm going to do is just get another one of these. Shifting gears, I'm going to move this truck over, and then I'm going to get at this cab. I'm going to dig her out, get all the stuff out of it. I'm going to tear the roof off and hopefully the windshield, and then get her on her back so that I can access the underneath. Grind and paint and whatever. I'll find out when I get there. So those who've been following the channel a little bit know that I've kind of had a bit of struggle trying to get this cab roof off, and it took back a little while ago. I took all the bolts out and tried to lift it, but it wouldn't come off. I assumed that it's siliconed or something back there, and I thought that I could lift this up, but now I'm going to take an alternate approach and get these bolts out from across the top of the windshield up here, and then hopefully I can get this to come free and then rock the whole thing back and hopefully break the silicone bead that I suspect is back there. Alright, so I've got the front bolts out here, and got the flat bar underneath, and it looks like there's a lot of silicone underneath here holding her together. Obviously for waterproofing, but yeah, that's been my troubles. Alright, so I got the back of it off here. I was struggling a little bit with this corner because this is bent. It's supposed to go straight down. Anyways, as I was lifting it up, it was kind of pushing harder on this side of the hole here, of the B-pillar. And this is just held in with a U-bolt. But yeah, once you loosen the U-bolt up, you can pop these off. So there wasn't any silicone back here. I think what was really holding me up was the amount of rust here on the seam, and just making it overall really tight. Well, pop the top and let the sun shine in. I was able to take this off just all in one here, just walked her off the cab, and I gotta say it's just more awkward than it is heavy. So up on here above the windshield frame, this is a good idea what I was up against. Just a lot of sealant here, just trying to make sure that it didn't leak. And getting the top off also helps with getting some more light in here so I can see what I'm doing. So next up is this windshield. I'm going to initially try to roll it down with these. I suspect that it's probably given the same treatment as up here. And then eventually if I get it rolled forward, then I'll look at taking it off. I definitely want to try to retain the functionality of the windshield as far as flipping it over. I might be able to get them so they come out. We'll see if how bad they are in here, but I'll go from there. So after a bit of digging, I was able to restore all the functionality of these windows. So we got your little vent action here, and it pushes out. I'm missing the clasps or the rods here that hold the window up just a little bit, and I think they're missing on each side, yeah. And then this one opens as well. And then I got each clasp that keeps the window down secure. I got those open, and although they were pretty tight when I got started, after I cleared all the rust out that expanded in here, it starts to move a bit more freely. So as to be expected, a lot of the seals are less than optimal, especially for the 7-year-old pickup truck, and I'll have to source replacements for them, or find inventive or creative solutions to get these seals a little bit better. A lot of the seals just deteriorate from age and overall just sitting outside for most of its life. So I'll look at getting those sealed back up. One thing I found interesting about these vacuum operated wipers is that there's a vacuum manifold that comes up and runs around down this, I guess you call it an A-pillar, outside the vehicle, and then down to where the windshield hinges. So when you push her forward, it pivots on that, and then you can see through this handy inspection hole that the vacuum continues through and then back inside the cab, and then carries on towards the engine. So originally these Dodge M37s are quite a tall truck when compared to modern vehicles nowadays. I think my Jeep's like 6 foot, 6'1", and I think I measured this truck before I tore it apart at 6'8" or 6'10". With the bows on the back of the pickup, you know, the tarp cover, I think it put it over 7 feet, maybe 7'2" or 4. I'm not sure. I never got a chance to measure it before I tore it apart. So a large obstacle that I have is my garage door is a 7-foot garage door, and I think with the overhang underneath of it, I think it's actually a 6'10" opening. And I guess this all goes to say that once I put the larger tires on it, some 37s and some new rims, this truck's gonna be a lot taller than that door over there. So being able to get it out of the shop, I might have to roll the windshield down and maybe put the hard top on outside. But those are all things for future Dave to worry about. Right now, windshield time. And then for taking the windshield off, I think it's held in with these 2 bolts. I'm not sure if this has anything to do with it. That might be just the pivot, but I'm going to find out shortly. So I got the windshield off, just off camera, and it did look like these 2 are held in here with the bolts, and then this one's also held in there as well with the bolt. That's the much larger one. So I'm going to need to replace some metal here, especially where the windshield sat, and then I'll probably just redo a lot of this as I go. Maybe changing it, so removing that vent altogether. I'm also mocking up the HVAC system. I pulled this out of the Dodge. I'd like to be able to have heat and air conditioning in this vehicle, so I just want to make some measurements and see where it fits. So these are the old trays that the seats used to sit on. With you had your driver's seat here, which sat a bit lower, and then you had your passenger seat, which was like a kind of a bench seat, and then your battery tray. This held 2 batteries originally, but it was since converted over to 12 volts, and yeah, it's right there. It's a nice setup, but I want to be able to put some safety in there, namely seat belts, at least, especially with all that horsepower that I'm going to put under this truck, and it's going to go a little faster. So I'll probably end up taking these boxes out, battery box, and these trays here so I can fit the new seat. So the new seats are actually the seats that are out of the Dodge. These are leather seats. They're heated. They got a whole bunch of all-way adjustable things here, and they lean back. I particularly like the idea of this because they have the integrated seat belt and the strap there for it. It's all built into the seat, so I think that'll be handy. Now hopefully as a bonus I can fit in a third seat. This is just like a flip-up console thing, and it mounts in between here. And these are the provisions for setting up the heated seating elements for both seats here. This will be power, but yeah. So I mocked these seats up here on the floor and measured out from end to end, and it's looking like it's about 62 and a little bit here. So that doesn't look like that idea is going to work. And even less so because this cab tapers as it goes in. I think even if I went right to the cushions and figured out how to get rid of those and relocate them somewhere, I think I'd still run into issues. But yeah, I'd probably run into issues with this hard stop here. So from here, I'm going to go back to the cab and I'm going to see if I can flip her up on its side to see what I'm dealing with underneath of it. So the underside of the cab looks pretty good, and what I'll do is I'll clean up some of the wiring and maybe the battery box on the other side, and then I'll put this back on the frame. So with it being back on the frame, it'll be at a more appropriate height for me to work on it, and also I'll be able to mock up a lot of things like seat placement, HVAC, steering column, maybe the gauges, pedals, and the flooring. And then once a lot of that stuff's all figured out, then I'll take it off once again, and then I'll fix some of the sheet metal up and get her painted. Alright, I got the cab on. I got the cab mounted and the bolts in place. So they have a bit of wiggle room in between the mounts, so I can position it fore and aft and laterally on the frame. So I think what I'm going to do is continue on putting on the body panels, specifically the front clip, and that way I can get an idea of where things are going to go for final assembly. And then when I do final assembly, everything will be in the same spot that I mocked it up in. Alright, so I got most of the front clip installed. I got the fender held up by a jack back here, and the front grille held on with this by this big block. So coming around here to the engine bay, this is where the fender comes in. It's quite a wide fender, and it comes over here, and it gives a small amount of space there with the turbocharger as I go back. So carrying on, I decided to put the fenders on both sides, hang the lights and turn signals, and then I got a piece of channel here that makes up the space pretty good. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that in its entirely because I still have to figure out how I'm going to hang the radiator and intercooler inside of it. But it gives a good indication of where I need to make supports for the back here. The back of this fender needs to be supported over to the frame here, and the same on the other side. So as for space on the driver's side, there's a bit more looking straight down at the frame coming through. I shouldn't have any trouble with the steering column and to hook up there, but and I'll have to put the brake booster and all that fun stuff in there, but I'll worry about that a bit later. So far, I'd say it's looking pretty good.